Hey everybody, welcome back to the Always Bayern Chelsea show. We got a good episode in store for you today. I just know it. The sun is beaming down on my face. It might look glorious or it might look like shit on the camera. I'm not exactly quite sure. But I'm, staring into the sun and just risking it all for the love of this sport, the love of this show. But that's right, it is a video episode, so go ahead, check it out on YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel. 100 subscriber special giveaway coming very soon, so stay tuned for that. And yeah, I'm just really fired up because we had two big wins this weekend for both Bayern and Chelsea. And I mean, on the Bayern front, I just feel like there's a ton to talk about. There's always a ton to talk about. So yeah, let's jump right into it. I guess we can start with Chelsea, unless you have any other housekeeping items to address at the top.
Yeah, might as well get this out of the way at the top. Apologies again for those that aren't in the local area, but had to represent today the Milwaukee Panthers. UWM basketball last game of the season today, 3 p.m. Milwaukee Central Standard Time. So the push for a Horizon League championship. I know soccer fans out there can respect the little guy, the little team trying to make a big run. So exciting stuff there. But yeah, huge week for the pod for Bayern and Chelsea getting big wins. Chelsea played Tuesday and won 4-0, which is insane that they actually won a game. Although it happened to be against the worst team in the history of the Premier League.
Yeah, Southampton is looking rough right now for sure, but um yeah, I gotta ask, UWM, who are they playing today?
They're playing Detroit Mercy, who is essentially the Southampton of the Horizon League.
Wow. Yeah, I don't even know if I've actually even heard of that team, which is saying something. But then do they have the Horizon League tournament after the season?
Starts Tuesday. They'll get a bye for their first game being Thursday. And if they win today, they'll have a home game on that day. And then the semifinal final is the following Monday, Tuesday in the great city of Indianapolis.
Wow, well let's hope that they can make it, all the way to the big dance this year. And yeah, Indianapolis will be there on the way to the Club World Cup and probably the way back from the Club World Cup. So looking forward to spending a little bit more time in that city, which I've been to a few times, stopped in a few times, but never really explored.
I've heard they have a couple good soccer bars, actually. I know there's like this deli or something there that puts on some games. So maybe we'll have to check that out. But yeah, getting right back into Chelsea here. It was maybe one of the weirder games I've seen. I did watch the entire game from the comfort of my apartment. And really, the first, what was it, 20 some minutes before the first goal, felt like I was watching two teams in League Two. I mean, it was that poor, so it's kind of a tough one to analyze for me just because of that. And then even when they started scoring goals, certain guys looked like crap. So I'll take the win at this point and hope that it can ride us into some momentum here. We got a couple easier games coming up. But yeah, I don't know if you kind of agree with that analysis of the first part and even the game in total.
Yeah, I think overall I do. I think there were large stretches of the match where Chelsea looked really good and looked really dominant. Certainly not that first 20 minutes though. Although I did like the lineup, I think, as much as I could with the injuries um, that Chelsea has. I think I like Neto at striker, especially with Jackson injured. I think Neto has good pace to lead a press. I think while I do like him crossing the ball, I also like him in the box making those like final touch shots and goals. And I also like Nkunku more on the left wing, I think. Although Nkunku is still doesn't really quite fit into a real left winger spot. He's more of like a 10 kind of. Um, but yeah, I thought overall I liked the lineup because I thought it allowed for a little bit more fluidity. I think Neto was a little bit more had a little bit more option to kind of roam around. I thought Palmer roamed around more. I thought Nkunku even kind of roamed around. So I thought the attack looked more fluid overall. I think it took a little bit to get used to. Maybe that's why that first 20 minutes was so strange. But um, I think, like I said, it was about as good as you could hope for with how Chelsea's been lately.
Yeah, no, a lot of interchanging with those attacking options. Nkunku still, I know he gets on the board, but yeah, he just does not fit anywhere super well because they have Palmer in the side. I think if Palmer were injured or something, he'd be able to shine more in what Palmer does for this team. But yeah, Neto, I agree, is your number one option right now as a striker. That's for sure. I mean, he's shown that he can do a lot of the things that Jackson does so well, the non-scoring attributes, the pressing. He actually held up the ball really well for being a guy that's 5'7". They were able to make passes, deep passes into him, and he could lay it off to somebody or, just hold his defender up, which was quite impressive. That's something Jackson does really well and then kind of can carry the ball after that. Neto was loads better than Nkunku has ever done. Giyu as well. Giyu is just a little young, but so really impressed with Neto. And, once they did get flowing, it was better. I'll agree with that. They do end up getting that first goal, whenever that was, 25, 30 minutes in, off a set piece. Tosin, I think, gets credited for the assist, heads it kind of by the near post there. And Cristo, to his credit, does kind of lay his body on the line a little bit to get the header and the goal.
Yeah, I'm maybe not as critical of Christo, but it's clear that he doesn't fit in this system right now. I think there are still moments where his talent does shine through, namely in this match on the assist that comes after that first goal. Neto gets a nice goal, and Cristo had a really nice assist there, doing a lot of the work for that goal. Um, but yeah, I mean, you're right. He doesn't fit in the system, and that's pretty obvious. He seems like a fish out of water, I guess, pretty much no matter where you plug him in here, which kind of sucks because, like I said, he does have talent. Like you can see it in some of these goals he scores and some of these, assists or whatever, just ways that he's providing to the attack, runs that he makes. So um, I did think it was one of his better matches, but, you know, one of his better matches. And he doesn't fit into the system, so you got to weigh it. It's likely that he could be moving on after this season, you know, but maybe to Bayern, who knows, but definitely moving on.
Yeah, I might have to go back and watch highlights of him when he was at Leipzig because I really can't figure out how he was a great player scoring so many goals. I don't know if he just was in a really good system and team for what his abilities were, and everything must have revolved around him because to me, even when it seems like Maresca does put him in a good spot, he doesn't shine as much as I thought he would. I don't know. It doesn't necessarily matter a ton. You're right on that second goal. Really nice layoff to Neto, who had a beautiful strike. This game, the opportunities were interesting because you started seeing Palmer getting a lot of chances at this point in the match, missing all of them. The way the attackers were kind of fitting like puzzle pieces at time into spaces, finding lanes, a lot of openings. And so for them to score that second goal, I thought was huge, even though Palmer was missing some. And then they do add a third as well before the half. Another set piece where Neto, beautiful ball in to Colwill, who heads one. And that's a guy that needs to score more. I know he's a defender, but you expect a guy like that with his aerial ability to score at least, I want to say, three, four, five goals in the Premier League per year. You're playing 38 matches. That's not too much to ask for from set pieces. So good to see that. Maybe he can carry some momentum and build some confidence as well.
Yeah, I mean that was certainly a great ball in by Neto. And again, I mean it's good on Colwell to score. It's never a given that you're going to score, but I was just super impressed with Neto the whole entire match. Laying that one up there, and yeah, the Palmer misses are getting worrisome. I wouldn't say it's time to, do anything super, uh, I don't know, brash, or it's not time to jump ship or anything. But yeah, I mean, Palmer just seems like he's struggling with his confidence right now. He does remind me a lot of how Zane looks when Zane is not confident. It's like there's like a mental block there where he takes a second too long to make a decision, and that either leads to a bad shot or like a blocked shot, or somebody just catches up to the rest of the team and the pass is a little bit off. There's just like one little thing, and I'm just gonna call it a mental block because that's what it seems like. When I watch Leroy Sané, I can clearly tell when he's confident and on and firing and banging shots in, you know, rocket ships going right past the keeper, no chance to save, versus the times where he just thinks a little too much and then a defender catches up to him. And I'm not saying Palmer and Zane, I'm not saying it's like for like, but the mental side of it is what's, bringing up this comparison in my brain at least. Um, and Palmer is so young. He has so much left to give and so much left to do. I'm not, again, saying this is the end of the world for him, but it's just something that I've been continuously noticing the last couple matches. So, I mean, whatever it is, obviously you have that breakout year and then teams start to pay attention to you more. So it's probably a little bit of that, but I think it's a little bit of a confidence thing as well.
Yeah, he could be just a touch tired, and I think he's just mishitting right now, which means yeah, it's more mental than anything. Um, I'm not too worried about it. I think he'll be fine. I think it's good to have a match where he plays like shit and everybody else steps up their game a little bit, and then they still get the win. So that was nice to see. I did think from a strategic point at this time in the game, I kind of wanted Maresca to just bring the young guys in that he had on the bench. When you're up 3-0 against the Southampton, especially when you got some Conference League games coming up. But, he eventually does make some subs, brings in George, late, brings in Shim, the 17-year-old. I'm trying to think who he brought in Matisse, I know the young kid from Saint Etienne. I don't know if you have the list up who else he brought in.
Achimpong came in,
Right. So yeah, they do eventually bring some guys in.
KDH came in.
KDH to me still provides nothing. That's a problem. I don't even
Yeah.
want to spend time on him. But George does come in and look solid. He made a nice little cameo. I wanted him to start. I didn't think Sancho provided much on the day. He was okay. But George came in right away and ends up getting an assist to a beautiful cross back pass to none other than the Penguin himself, Marc Cucurella, who scores a nice goal.
Yeah, I think if you're gonna start George, this is the type of match to do it. I don't think he's ready for 90 minutes Premier League action, top teams, but a match like this definitely. And I agree with you. I like what I see from him whenever I see him get some minutes. I think, can always be a nice kind of bench guy to bring in. I shouldn't say always. At this point in his career, when he's younger, he could always be a nice bench guy to bring in, um, and give you some fresh legs. He seems to me like a classic young guy who knows he's not going to get a lot of minutes and feels like he has a lot to prove, and sometimes forces things a little bit, but overall you can tell that the raw talent is there. And yeah, like you said, that assist towards the end there was awesome. So he's a guy like that, I always want to see more minutes out of, especially maybe later in a match when things are almost decided, or for sure Conference League, for sure Southampton, these kind of matches. Because I think you really could have a nice talent on your hands. So you got to get him some minutes. And yeah, great goal from Mark there at the end. And a very nice Penguin celebration, as he's known to do.
Yeah, I love Mark. Love everything he provides. And George, I think, in my opinion, just briefly watching the attacking options and seeing what Chelsea have brought through the last few years, I don't think he's a super high potential guy, if I'm being honest with my analysis. I think he can be a guy that kind of sits around your bench options, even as he gets older, grows into himself a little bit. Wouldn't be surprised if at some point he gets sold or even like goes on loan or something. I just don't think he has the highest ceiling. Could he get there? Sure. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he proves me wrong. But for now, I definitely do want to see him still play just to see what we have. Even though I think that doesn't mean I don't want to see him play. I think he's maybe going to get the start against Copenhagen here next week. It'd be nice to see. Although I do think you need to put out a strong lineup, I think you can put him in there if you have some other key players in around him. So that'd be my goal with him for the rest of the year is make him available and see what he's got. Because you never know.
Yeah, I think with the amount of matches that teams have to play now, the amount of English weeks in England, the amount of I guess, yeah, Conference League, Europa League, whatever tournament that a team like Chelsea will be in. And then with the performance of a lot of these wingers on Chelsea currently, I think he's a guy that you want to keep around for a little bit and see, Like you said, maybe he doesn't have the highest ceiling, but I think with all these matches and again with the output of that this current winger group has given you, I think he's a guy that you know, again, maybe you don't start him every match, but he can start some of these matches and can certainly provide depth when you just need to rotate because there's so many matches these days.
Yeah, and let's be honest, if Mudryk didn't have a Russian spy slip something into his food, George wouldn't be playing much because my star boy Misha would be playing in these matches. But nonetheless, it's the option we have right now, so we'll go with that. But I did mention Copenhagen, and while this was a nice win against Southampton, I just need them to carry the momentum, stay loose, stay fresh, stay young, and carry that into this next week where you go on the road to what seems like a wonderful country in Denmark, what seems like a wonderful city in Copenhagen. I actually was looking at it on the map the other day. I didn't realize it's kind of on the edge of Denmark, the northeastern region of it, with a ton of water in there. Very interesting. Would love to visit the city, but I'm hoping Chelsea charge right in there and just break down the walls of that place and maybe sink the city into the water.
Yeah, I mean, this would be a big win for Chelsea in the Conference League. This is two legs right now.
It is,
They
yep.
come back, yeah, for the second leg. Um, yeah, I mean, you want to start off strong. You want to kind of choke the life out of the match early and really just deflate any hopes that Copenhagen has, and really send a message, I think, to the rest of the Conference League that, you guys can have a nice tournament and all, but we are the big bad boys from London, so get uh get ready for us, basically.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see what Enzo Maresca decides to do for his lineup.
I was gonna
You
ask you
know,
about that.
yeah, Fofana's back, but I believe he's not in the Conference League squad. Um, do you play Palmer? Do you play Enzo and Caicedo? I'm guessing he will not play both Caicedo and Enzo. I would just play one of them. He's probably going to go Gusto instead of James and then play James against Leicester would be my guess. I don't know. George, I do hope starts on the left wing, but then if that happens, then you know, do you go Palmer right wing? Because at that point, I'd probably want some decent attack with George. I'd like to see Neto again at striker. I think you have to because you don't really have any other options. But then again, I don't want him burned out. He's expending more energy with that role. So I don't know. It's a lot of options, although it seems limited options wise. I think there's a lot that he can do, and you definitely don't want to take this team lightly. I think they've known to be in the Champions League in the past. So yeah, it could be interesting.
Yeah, I believe you're right. I think they're historically a pretty decent side if I'm thinking of the correct team. But yeah, I think I would probably throw Neto at striker. I would play Palmer. I would probably start George, like you said. I think I would rest Caicedo and start Enzo. Caicedo has just looked a little bit tired to me lately, and I really think I want to save him for the Premier League, um, or like the end of the Conference League, maybe. I think I probably play Mark, and then I maybe switch out some of the center backs. Although I guess there's some injuries at the center back spot anyways, so um, yeah, and then I think I rest James and save him for the Premier League. I probably play Gusto. That's roughly what I'm doing, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you don't really have a backup for Mark with Vega being gone on loan.
Right.
KDH probably starts for Caicedo in that spot, which then
Yeah.
it's like your midfield is really attacking. So you're just counting on goals, which is fine. I'd like to see Matisse, or if that's how you pronounce it. I'm not going to try his last name, get some minutes, but I doubt he's going to start at this point. Yeah, it's very interesting. But I'm going to watch, have fun with it, and hopefully Chelsea can deliver.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with a Chelsea win for that one. I'm feeling good about it. Not to jinx us, of course, but
Love to hear it.
yeah, well, should we move on over to Bayern Munich? Is there anything else you want to hit on with Chelsea?
No, I don't think there's anything else. If we don't do an episode right after that, Chelsea do play Sunday against Leicester City. The Foxes back at the bridge, another must win.
Yeah,
So if we don't talk right after Copenhagen, there's that. But um, that's about it.
yeah, it's a busy week coming up, and we should maybe try to do a midweek episode because Bayern's Champions League match against Leverkusen is on Wednesday, so we'll see, what our schedules are like. But there's going to be a lot to talk about coming up, and before we get too ahead of ourselves, I think we got to talk about that really, really big win for Bayern. Honestly, truly massive in terms of the Bundesliga title race. Bayern taking care of Stuttgart 3-1 in a performance that was really kind of turned out to be a wild, wild match, and a match that I actually had a ton of fun with. Because Stuttgart is not a team that's going to sit back and try to absorb pressure. Stuttgart is a team that is going to try to go punch for punch with a giant like Bayern Munich. And they did go punch for punch with Bayern Munich, and they actually outplayed Bayern for about the first 30 minutes or so. But Bayern showed a lot of grit, a lot of heart, and a lot of character to come back in this one and win 3-1. And sure, they capitalized off of some really putrid Stuttgart mistakes. I'm talking like, I don't know, high school or below level soccer mistakes. But, Bayern was there. Their press really, I think, wore Stuttgart down eventually. And Bayern just had the mental maturity really to stick in the match and win it. And quite frankly, this is a match that I think Bayern Munich may have lost last season.
Yeah, kind of agree with that last point, and that's why I think Bayern has been a special team in the Bundesliga this season because they're winning all these matches. I was looking in the table the other day. I want to say they're 19-4-1 or something, whereas
Yep.
Leverkusen has 8 draws.
That's the
So
thing. Yeah, Leverkusen I think only has one loss as well, but they just have so
they
many
do,
more
correct.
draws. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's been the difference. The tables have kind of flipped there, less magic Leverkusen's way. And I wouldn't even say magic Bayern's way because I think they're just getting these wins in a dominating fashion. So, yeah, really important win for Bayern, especially when you maybe struggle in the first half. And it's always good to get these wins. I think they did some good things, some maybe not so good things, but when you're not at your strongest, you want to just grind it out.
Yeah, and like you were saying with Chelsea and how Palmer didn't have the best match, but some other guys stepped up. That's exactly how I felt with Bayern. I thought that Kane and Musiala in particular were slow in this one. We'll talk about it, but Musiala really missed a wide open shot. Kane looks like his calf is still bothering him and he can hardly move. I shouldn't say hardly move, but he looks like the level of Kane that we saw towards the end of the Euros, where he's clearly running slow. Um, and not like Kane is, Usain Bolt out there on a good day, but you know what I mean. Just his movement, his runs are just a step behind where they usually are. Um, and Musiala's still dealing with the lingering effects of this sickness. I'm sure he looks pretty gassed out there. You had guys like Zane, Olise, Goretzka, Dyer. These guys who and other guys too, who Polina, who don't start and hardly have played this year, really just step up in a moment like this where, um, you know, I'm not saying that the title was for sure decided in a match like this, but these are the matches where the title is decided. So I know that sounds like I just double backed, but um, you know what I mean. I think if you're an astute listener, I think you'll pick up what I'm putting down. But yeah, just to quickly talk about the starting lineup, Neuer was the goalkeeper. Um, I thought it was a fine match by Neuer. I thought the goal that Stuttgart scored, Angelo Stiller, Neuer was positioned kind of poorly and could have done better, but also I think the shot was kind of blocked, so I don't think he saw it right away. Like his vision was blocked. Um, Alphonso Davies at left back, Min Jae Kim, Eric Dier center backs, Conrad Leimer right back. Really good match from both center backs, I thought, and a not so good match from both of the outside backs. The midfield pivot was João Palhinha and Leon Goretzka. Two players who um, I think stepped up in the absence of Pavlovic and Kimmich. Their absence is obviously felt in a match like this, but really solid efforts from both of the midfielders. Attack was Leroy Sane left wing, Jamal Musiala at the 10, Michael Olise at the right wing, and Harry Kane at the 9.
Yeah, all things considered, pretty strong lineup, certainly on the attacking options. And then your midfield, kind of what you had to roll with, but guys that are capable of performing, especially in a Bundesliga setting. Really liked what I saw from some of the guys like Sane and Olise. As you kind of mentioned, they've been so strong lately, it seems like. So that really carries the team forward. And even though they didn't look the greatest in the first third of the game, I think they were battling and they were generating chances in the beginning when they weren't playing super well. So you knew that they probably were going to find their footing as the game went on.
Yeah, it was weird. The first 30 minutes were almost the opposite of what you normally see with Bayern Munich, where Stuttgart was playing very brave. Stuttgart was controlling the flow of the match, controlling possession for large portions of it, and Bayern was kind of getting their chances off of counters or just quick instances of Stuttgart turns the ball over and Bayern makes a move and gets a shot. That was how the Musiala shot happened. I believe it was Zane who played a perfect pass to Musiala, so there were no defenders by him, and just a one-on-one with the keeper, and Musiala misses the target completely. Zane had a miss in there too, where um, he didn't shoot right away. He just maybe took that split second to decide, like we were talking about before, and the defense caught up with him. There were a few. Kane had a shot that the keeper saved. Olise had a shot that the keeper saved. Um, but Stuttgart was really like I said, controlling the state of the match, which is usually what Bayern Munich does, especially in the Bundesliga. And then other teams usually strike off the counter against Bayern. So that's kind of how, the match started. Bayern was just sloppy. They were kind of, I think, getting their footing. The midfield was clearly missing the presence of Kimmich and Pavlovic. Kimmich is usually the sole person dictating the pace of a match. And so without him, Bayern just looked sloppy in the beginning. Their ball recovery time at one point was 22 seconds, which, if you know Bayern Munich, it's pretty much always under 10 seconds. It's under 5 seconds a lot of times with the way Vincent Kompany wants to play. That's a huge, huge part of Vincent Kompany's style is just, recover the ball as soon as you lose it. And so that 22 seconds was the largest I've ever seen for Bayern Munich this season. So yeah, that's kind of how the match started off. Bayern had some good chances, like you said, off of counters, and they didn't put them away. Stuttgart eventually got their goal because Zane basically slipped, and this is just a what can you do moment. I don't really blame him for that. the pitch was just bad in this area, and he basically just slipped and turned the ball over. And then Stuttgart was in a dangerous position from there, made a couple of good passes, and former Bayern Munich academy prospect Angelo Stiller uh, just banged in a beautiful shot. I mean, like I said before, Neuer wasn't in the best position, and I think his view was blocked from it, so he didn't make a well-timed jump. But even if he did, that still might have been a goal. Such a good shot by Stiller, who I will say celebrated, and then after the match apologized to Bayern fans for celebrating, and I don't have a problem with that. It was such a good goal. I think in the moment you just get swept up, and you kind of got to celebrate that.
I did see that the non-celebrations are getting so out of hand. I'm seeing guys that didn't even have a cup of coffee with some teams, and they're not celebrating when they score against them. It's like, are you serious? The fans don't even know who you are. But nonetheless, it's funny, and it was actually a double slip that led to the goal. Looked like a Stuttgart player slipped first. Sane gets the ball.
Yep.
Sane slips, so then they get the ball. So, you're not going to blame anybody for that, really, in that scenario. Great goal. Yeah, the announcers were saying that Neuer likely had his vision partially blocked, as you mentioned. So, even without that, he probably still gets that one past Neuer. Just a nice goal. And I do also want to add, you mentioned some of these misses Musiala had, which was a bad miss. The Sane one, maybe some good defending. Undav, I tell you what, I thought this guy was pretty solid, but boy, did he look poor on the day. First half, I know he had a couple misses. Had a miss that was identical to the Cucurella goal in terms of how it was set up, and then he skies it way over the net. And then later in the match, I know he had another miss too, but it seemed like he could have made this game a lot more interesting.
Yeah, he missed a shot within maybe 5 minutes of the match that was, I don't know if he was caught off guard or what, but there was a ball that went over the entire back line of Bayern, right into his foot, right in front of Neuer, and he just weakly, I don't know, taps it at Neuer, right in Neuer's arms. Like that one was, yeah, also one of the worst misses of the match. And yeah, I mean, Stuttgart is such a weird team because I look at their lineup and it's really good. They dealt with a lot of injuries this year, so you know, I'm not blaming this all on the players or the coach. I think Seb Honis is a great coach, actually. I would like to see what he could do with a roster like Bayern Munich's, honestly. He's very attacking minded, as we see in this match. He was brave and outplayed Bayern for a bit and got that lead before falling off. And honestly, if some of these guys, like you said, like Undav, would have buried those chances, it would have been a different match. Um, yeah, I mean, you've got Undav, you've got Leveling. These are both guys who are German national team guys. Chris Führich is also a German national team guy. Mittelstadt, I think, is one of the best left backs in the Bundesliga. He is a guy who I would have, liked to go after if Alphonso Davies would have left. Um, and of course, Angelo Stiller is, you know, uh, a lot of people really, really like him. I'm not completely sold on him yet, but he's a great young player. Obviously, I'll just say that. I need to see more from him, I think, before I like really go all in on the Stiller train. But um, he's a very solid player. Obviously, Nubel, you know, Stuttgart's keeper on loan from Bayern Munich right now, was thought of at one point to be the replacement for Neuer once Neuer goes, but I haven't seen enough from Nubel to feel confident with him. I mean, this match, we'll get to it, I think is a perfect example, but he makes a lot of dumb mistakes. He tries to play like Neuer, I think, in the boldness and the braveness, taking guys on, making risky passes, coming out of net really far. And he's a solid keeper, but a match like this, these big matches, a lot of times that I watch of Stuttgart, he makes mistakes, and that's going to come back to haunt them certainly in this match.
Yeah, they get that goal, and you're thinking, okay, this could be interesting, but you also know Bayern's not going to lay down. And you mentioned the recovery time, how it wasn't great for Bayern in a lot of that first third of the match, but boy, Stuttgart just said, okay, you want some better recovery time? Why don't we just pass you the ball?
Yeah, Stuttgart gave Bayern a ton of gifts. But yeah, right before that first half ended, actually, Bayern equalized. Michael Olise, a beautiful through ball by Sane, really just splitting the Stuttgart defense. Although on the other hand, how the hell do you let that happen if you're Stuttgart up 1-0? You let one pass go through, and you have essentially um, not a 100% chance of scoring, but you have a really good chance to score. And maybe they thought Olise was off. It was really, really close. But it turned out he was onside. And yeah, I mean, Michael Olise just coming through for Bayern Munich. I can't say enough good things about this guy right now. And I will say, I think that Leroy Sane to Michael Olise connection is becoming really, really strong.
Yeah, if you let one header to Sane off a long pass, then open up such a massive lane where Sane can easily find Olise, then you just have no integrity in the setup of your defensive tactics. I mean, that's just terrible.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. So yeah, Olise gets that goal, and then really, I think that totally changes things. Bayern goes into halftime, in my opinion, feeling pretty good, whereas Stuttgart, who was feeling good, and at that point, had they been up, there reaches a point in the match where you can kind of sit back and defend, but now it's like, well, shit, we played very well for about 30 minutes, and all we got was 1-1 out of it.
Yeah, they definitely were probably wishing they had at least another goal, although Bayern could have had another as well. So, all in all, it's maybe a fair result for the first half. I don't know, tough to say, but yeah, it's just also tough when you're Stuttgart and you know Bayern has all this talent and they're gonna score at some point, at least a couple more.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you look at the depth of a team like Bayern as well. That's a huge part of it. And hey, it looks like we got the perfect amount of light right now for me, where the sun is being blocked by the middle of my windows. So, this might be a perfect time to tune into the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you are not already. But yeah, let's make the most of it, I suppose. And yeah, second half starts and it's kind of an open match, I thought. Bayern came out with a lot of aggression in terms of pressing, in terms of winning the ball back a lot quicker than they were. Bayern came out pretty hot. And I think there were a few defensive mistakes right away that neither team capitalized off of until the 64th minute. But actually, right before that 62nd minute, Kompany made some subs, and I texted you this, and I also tweeted this. I really think Muller could have done more in a situation like this. I was actually kind of hoping Muller would come on for either Musiala or Kane, actually, because, like I said, both of them looked just slow and not 100% fit, and I really want those two guys to be fit for Leverkusen. Honestly, this is a match where you maybe could have started Muller over Kane. And I'm probably the last person in the world who would ever say that because of how much I like Kane. But if Kane isn't 100% for Leverkusen, that could be a problem. But yeah, anyways, Sane comes out, Coman comes in, which was kind of a bummer for me because I thought Sane looked like the best player or one of the best players, at least in the attack at that point. So, yeah, I don't know if you had any thoughts about that or what I just said, Thomas Muller, but I really thought his Muller's press, his creativity, his ability to link up play and to instill chaos into the attack and the game would have suited this match in particular pretty well.
Yeah, a couple things. Sane coming off was interesting, seeing that he was probably the best player at the time of the match. Ends up maybe not mattering, but kind of agree with you on Muller. I will say, I think I've just realized that managers aren't really willing to take off their best players, which is fair. They've kind of earned that right. But as one Twitter user kind of put eloquently, that's why you're not the manager.
Yeah, I was gonna say I caught some flack for that, but not even just this match. I've been saying this. I think Muller needs to play more. I think he still has something left to offer. And I'm not even somebody, there's a lot of Mueller fanboys out there who want him to start every match and play 90 minutes every match. I'm not one of those people, but I do think there are just certain matches where what he brings would be so valuable, especially when you, I think, need to rest Kane and Musiala a little bit more when they're looking like the way they've been looking lately. So, that's where my head was at for that one. But, like you said, in this match in particular, probably ends up not mattering. And I think part of the reason why Company is so hesitant to rotate more, he does an okay job rotating the attack for the most part, but Kimmich, the center backs. I think he's so hesitant to rotate these guys because I really think he doesn't want to lose the locker room. And maybe that's fair. He's such a young coach and he has done a phenomenal job of gaining players' trust and winning over the locker room. It seems like every player on the team loves the guy. So, maybe Twitter user whatever is right and that's why I'm not the coach. But I just think we're coming to a point in the season where you need Kim, you need Upa, you need Kimmich, you need Davies, you need Kane, you need Musiala to be healthy. And like I said with the Caicedo thing, if you're playing these guys 90 minutes every match, they're not going to be 100% fit at this point in the season. They just aren't.
Agreed. You got to manage those minutes. Company, his first year with the team, we just got to see how he does that. And it's going to look probably different than you'd expect. And you have to roll with it, I think, and trust that he'll do the right thing. And if he doesn't, he'll hopefully learn from it.
Yeah, I agree with that. But, this match in particular was just another match where I see Eric Dier go out there and play his heart out. I mean, communicates so well. He communicates better than Kim and Upa, for sure. He brings a level of calmness, he brings a level of stability into this back line. And Company, for some reason, was scared to play him for an entire over half of a season. You know, management is talking like, yeah, the last thing in hell we're gonna do is extend Eric Dier, but goddamn, does he come in there and just play his heart out every time he plays? And he's not gonna crush people in a foot race or whatever. He's not maybe the best on-ball dribbling center back in the world, but he, like I said, provides a level of leadership that this back line lacks at times. And I don't know why you don't play him against a Bochum. I don't know why first half of the year you weren't playing him against a Kiel. Like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's the biggest complaint I have about Company so far is that we're at this point of the season and you were rolling out Kim and Upa every single match and now they're both injured. So when you have somebody like Eric Dier, who you know, I think at this point, I would start him and Upa against Leverkusen in the Champions League now. I think Kim is a little too banged up and a little too mistake prone in these big matches. And the way Company plays, a mistake from Kim is going to lead to a goal. It just is. And I mean, we saw it last year in the Champions League. We've seen it this year in big matches. And I don't hate Kim. I think there's a lot of times you can use him. I think Ito is another option, but Ito hasn't played center back at all for us this season yet because of his injury. So I don't know. I'm starting Dyer and Dyer. I kind of combined Diet, Upamecano, and Eric Dier there, but I'm starting Upa and I'm starting Dyer for the Leverkusen match. I just thought Dyer put in a great performance and I needed to get that off my chest.
Dyer's the man. Yeah, we talked about it since last year. He's kind of an unsung hero. Um, so he certainly deserves time. Do I think he's gonna get it against Leverkusen? Probably not, knowing Company. But we'll see what happens. And you can always use depth going down in the rest of the year. So it's gonna be good to have a beautiful man like that on your squad.
Agreed, 100%. And speaking of unsung heroes, if there's one guy who's maybe more of an unsung hero than Eric Dyer on this squad, a guy who I also have caught flack for saying puts in solid performances whenever his number is called, despite everything, Leon Goretzka. Yep, that's right. The 64th minute, the winner is scored by Leon Goretzka off of a putrid garbage mistake by Alexander Nubel, who I think has some good attributes, but again, just he's not where I need him to be in terms of somebody who I want to see in between the sticks for Bayern Munich. He plays a pass to Angelo Stiller, and this is maybe partially Stiller's fault. It's maybe partially, what's for sure partially the physicality and intensity that Leon Goretzka brings to the pitch, box to box, may I add. Goretzka comes in, and this is something that no other midfielder on Bayern has, really, is this level of physicality. Goretzka is such a physical specimen that he almost has the profile of like a striker. Like his profile is almost the same as Kane, in a way where he knows how to use his body and he comes bursting in and basically predicts the pass that Nubel's making to Stiller, gets around Stiller, gets the ball, and just puts it right in the back of the net for a beautiful goal. And yeah, I thought Goretzka had a solid match again. Didn't blow me away by any means, but um, had a really solid, good match, like he always does, despite everybody hating on him left and right and everybody telling him to leave Munich and never come back. He's just solid.
He is, and that's a player that is so underrated to have in your squad. Will step up in times where you don't expect it and never makes crazy mistakes, works hard, doesn't complain. It's just a guy that's so helpful to have on your team. And yeah, it was pure hard work. Probably not the smartest pass. Zero awareness by Stiller, is it? I mean,
Yep.
zero awareness. I don't know what he's thinking, trying to just pass it back to the keeper. Like, how do you not realize Gretzka's right on you? But nonetheless, a gift that Leon took. And by the way, Leon is an all-time name. Makes
100%.
me think of a great, great character in the movie Elf, of course, Leon the Snowman, who hasn't even been in New York City. He thinks he was a cloud, but yeah. So good for Gretzka.
Yeah, and I don't care if anybody wants to at me on social media or maybe comment on this video, because Goretzka has so many haters out there, and I'm bound to get some hate for saying it, but the Eric Diers, the Leon Goretzkas, these are the guys that win you a Bundesliga, and I don't mean that they're going to be your star players starting every match, but I mean that the Bundesliga title race is a race that goes on for months. You have to be at the top of your game for months. Players are going to get injured. You can't start the same 11 every single match. So you need guys like this who are going to be rock solid and who are going to show up when it counts and really put their lives on the line for that badge. And so, yes, the Eric Dyers of the world, the Leon Goretzkas of the world are the reason why you win a league title. They might not be the reason why you win a Champions League or a knockout, game in a tournament, but they're the reason why you win a league title that goes on for an entire season. So there, 76th minute, uh, Konrad Laimer comes out and Josip Stanisic comes in, and that was a good move. I thought Laimer didn't have his best match, and neither did Davies. I said that at the beginning. Laimer, in particular, was his over aggressive self in this one, playing like a midfielder at the right back. Laimer is a great profile to have. He's a pressing machine. He never gets tired. He will run and run and run and run, until the cows come home for 90 minutes. But, he just was a little bit over aggressive in this one for my liking.
Yeah, I mean the challenge where he gets a yellow, probably not the smartest move there. The end of this game, and even throughout the game, there was some physicality, some poor challenges, reckless challenges. Um, so that kind of added to the scene of the match that we end up seeing later. But yeah, Limer just is kind of like a Goretzka in that he mostly works hard, kind of grinds it out, will get you a goal every now and then that you don't expect. Um, is he going to be the greatest player of all time? Certainly not, but um, so not surprising that he's going to have some matches where he maybe isn't the greatest.
Yeah, and at this point in the match, you really started to see Bayern's heart. you really started to see their character. The whole team was defending at this point. Kane was dropping back defending. Olise was dropping back defending. Um, Everybody was just laying it out on the line, and this is why the game is so beautiful, in my opinion. This like point in the match where everybody is fighting, and you can see how much this match meant to the team. Like I said, in terms of the Bundesliga title race, you can see how much they were aware of that at this point in the match. Um, and then 85th minute, you had a bunch of subs. Musiala, Olise, and Davies came off. Muller, Zane, and uh, no, that wouldn't be right. Muller, Coman, and Ito came on at that point, which I thought was fine. You know, you're really late in the match. You want some fresh energy. Um, Totally fine there. And then in the 90th minute, we saw just such an awesome moment. You know, Kingsley Coman scores this goal off of just putrid defending. I mean, at this point, Stuttgart basically put in a lineup of 11 attackers. They started going crazy with subs and just putting in every single attacking option that they had. You know, and this goal came off of a really bad back pass. Coman was there. Um, you know, to put it away, Nubel was way, way, way out in net and decided to charge at Coman. It's kind of a lose-lose situation for Nubel there. Um, Although it is Kingsley Coman, so you might have been better staying back in the net. But instead, Nubel kind of charges at him. Coman just gets around him. And again, Nubel was so far out in net. Like this was damn near in the middle of the pitch. And Coman gets around him. And I will say it was a nice finish by Coman to put this shot away. He kind of has to bend it. You know, he's running down the touchline and he kind of has to bend it around. So it goes around everybody and goes around Nubel and eventually finds its way in the back of the net. But the moment after this goal was my moment of the match. And again, you can see what this match meant to the team. You can see what it meant in the title race if you just watch this moment. Vincent Kompany sprints onto the field. After the match, he got asked about it and said he glitched. He said I kind of blacked out. I don't really remember what happened, but he ran onto the pitch, and the whole team is basically celebrating like they won the title. Kane jumps into Coman's arms and then into Kompany's arms, like literally like legs around his back, like jumps into his arms. And I mean, you can just see how much that means for a guy, especially like Harry Kane, who has been so desperate to get his first trophy. And of course, the season's not over, but you know, it just felt like a moment of total euphoria. And a moment like that really shows you how much the team does gel with Kompany and how much they do like Kompany. So that was really just a beautiful moment to see.
Yeah, it's awesome team moment, and this team definitely wants the Bundesliga title. They will get the title, and hopefully that kind of momentum and togetherness helps them advance further this week, against Leverkusen. And I think even at the end of the match shows how much this team is willing to fight for each other.
Yeah, that's the last thing I wanted to talk about because really that moment of beautiful togetherness and just the peak of the beautiful game was unfortunately not overshadowed, but what happened next was just a horrible, horrible moment in my opinion. Um, I wish I don't even want to give whoever it was on Stuttgart credit for this. And of course he probably doesn't realize exactly what's going on. So I'm not totally gonna trash Stuttgart for this, but um yeah, so Stanisic gets smoked in the head by a ball. Somebody was taking a shot or kicking a long pass as hard as they could, basically. Stanisic was right in front of him and just ball to the dome, goes down, like concussion for sure. I don't know, you know, you and I haven't been footballers our whole lives, but I can tell you that when we're on the pitch and you're, you know, banging in corners and I'm practicing heading in corners, it hurts. And that's a corner. This was the ball is, you know, a couple yards away getting blasted into your head. So Stanisic goes down. Um, I hope he's not, you know, I don't, I think he's going to be fine, but it seemed like a concussion type thing, you know, from me looking at it. He looked dizzy. He looked like he was just couldn't move at first. And then Stuttgart, you know, thinking that he's time wasting or whatever, tries to pick him up, tries to grab him and pull him up, which not a good thing to do when somebody's potentially concussed. I don't think, your head should be moving very fast. And Kane was incredibly irate at this. I've never seen Kane this mad, but he, um, you know, got in their face and started screaming at them and went over to the official and started yelling at the official. And I started to wonder, I thought about this morning, I wonder if Kane was actually vice captain without Kimmich. Neuer isn't the one talking to the refs because Neuer is so far out of the action. I was wondering if Kane was vice captain because Kane went to bat right away for Stanisic, which was awesome, you know. And then, of course, Kane gets carded for it. A Stuttgart player gets carded. There's kind of a big, like, I don't know, not like a tussle, but almost a tussle. People are in each other's faces, grabbing, holding people back. It was awesome to see, I guess. And also, it sucked to see.
Yeah, emotions getting the best of everybody for sure at that point in the match. If you watch any boxing, mixed martial arts, you'll know that one of the illegal shots is to the back of the head. So that to me is why this was worse than a normal ball to the head because it actually hit the back of Stanisic's head, which
Yep.
is a lot riskier for some pretty nasty head injuries, much worse than concussions actually potentially. So that to me was what made it a little dicier, and good on Kane for stepping up. We know that he can be a captain and a leader, so he certainly has the ability to show that.
Yeah, and he did there. I really loved that out of Kane. Sucks now that he has 4 yellow cards, I think, so he's one away from a suspension, but I guess we'll cross that bridge eventually when we come to it. We did see Davies get hurt as well at the end. It looked like that hamstring again. Had to get subbed off, but maybe that was more of a precautionary thing. I hope that he's going to be fine because we're going to need him against Leverkusen on Wednesday. We're also going to need Kimmich against Leverkusen on Wednesday, I think. And or Pavlovich. There's this nasty flu that's going around the team. It's had Polina down for a while. Obviously had Musiala down. It seems like Pavlovich has it now. Bouet has it. So, um, these guys. I don't know if they're going to be 100%, but I hope that they're good enough to play. Kimmich, I I think is going to play. I saw that he's trying to get back. I also saw that he's in doubt, so who really knows? But my inkling just tells me that a guy like Kimmich, who already does the superhuman task of playing 90 minutes every single match, literally a psychopath. I would consider Kimmich a psychopath. Um, I think he's gonna play no matter what he's feeling. But we're just gonna have to wait and see. Almost anybody else, I would say, maybe not. But Kimmich, with his psychopathic tendencies, I think is gonna get back in there.
Is it home or away?
Home.
Okay. Yeah. Um, tough to decide on those injuries. Home leg is usually a must win. The way these teams play each other, I wouldn't necessarily say that. I think either team is capable of beating the other on the other's pitch. But we'll see, going to be absolutely massive.
Yeah, I'm so fired up about these matches. Um, I just think that this is what you live for. A lot of people in the Bayern Munich hierarchy are, I think, care about the Bundesliga more. I mean, I guess that shows with how often they win the Bundesliga, but um, I think a lot of those guys care more about the Bundesliga. I think there's a portion of the fan base that really cares more about the Champions League. The world of football certainly cares more about the Champions League. And I'm just fired up because I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think these two teams are two great teams, and I think they play each other very, very well. They're very, I guess, hard. I think it's going to be a battle. I think it's going to be a fight, and I'm so excited to just sit back and watch this. I will say if I want to do a segment that was recommended to me by one of our faithful listeners. Um, and she's actually back here. Not the listener, but the the predictor. You can't see her on camera, but we talked a lot about Polly the cat last episode, and maybe we do a semi-regular or regular segment called Polly's predictions. And you know, I think Polly's just so much of a Bayern fan that I think she's gonna go ahead and predict a 2-1 victory for Bayern Munich at home against Leverkusen at the Allianz.
Yeah, maybe one of these days, you do one of those classic put the food in front of the pet, see where they go.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I do think Bayern is going to win this first leg. I think they're just motivated and really hungry for this, especially the way they've played against Leverkusen the last couple of years. So, Company's cooking some things up. And, Kane probably gets a brace in this one, and Bayern win. I think actually they win 3-1. So, going to be a nice, easier breathing win for the fans.
Well, Polly and I would certainly love that. That would be huge, taking that into the Bay Arena because the way you can kind of set up your game plan for that second leg then. Um, but yeah, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if this whole thing went down to penalties. I wouldn't be surprised if either of these matches went into extra time, just how these two teams are. So, um, yeah, just really, really looking forward to that. And then I think the last thing I wanted to talk about, or at least hit on, was Joshua Kimmich and his contract extension because there's so much going on right now with that. And by the time, I don't know, I have this edited and out, it could totally be different because, we had been hearing for days that Kimmich was so close to extending that he had basically agreed on an extension and Bayern Munich offered him 22 million a year with a signing on fee, a lower signing on fee than Musiala and Davies got because those two were making a lot less than Kimmich currently, and because they're just younger and everything. And it was reported that Bayern promised Kimmich the captaincy after Neuer retires, and a few days went by, and I thought they were just finalizing minor details. But then all of a sudden, earlier this week, a bombshell report comes out that Bayern Munich withdrew their offer because Kimmich was taking too long to decide, basically. They weren't sure why he hadn't decided. They basically rolled out the red carpet for him with as high of a salary, I think, as they can pay him, an increased salary, and saying, we trust you enough. We're putting our faith enough in you to be the future captain.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I kind of told you. I think if he's demanding what a guy like Musiala is getting, it's probably too much. Who knows what's happening behind the scenes? Kimmich is getting older. Do I think he's super important? Yes, but at some point you have to get a little younger as well. So we'll see. Yeah, I hope it doesn't turn into kind of a he said, she said battle and make each other look bad, but you never know with these things.
Yeah, part of me wonders if this is just another like effort by Kimmich to um, shop himself around and try to raise up his price. I mean, he is his own agent, so um, there were reports that nobody really had made an offer for him. I think a lot of these clubs just expected him to re-up with Bayern because of how important he is to the team, because of, his whole family lives in Munich. He has a million kids now. And you know, now it's been reported that after this latest kerfuffle, Arsenal and PSG have put in offers. So who knows what's really happened? I mean, he's been linked to Man City. He's been linked to Barcelona, especially with the Hansi Flick connection. Although Barcelona, can they afford anybody these days? I don't exactly know. I'm sure they would find a way to do it, but he talked with Liverpool. He talked with Real Madrid. So there's certain spots where he could go, definitely, if he wanted to, but and a lot of fans are mad at him online because, oh, how can you take this much time? How can our future captain be this indecisive? Which I don't really fault him necessarily for trying to get everything he can out of his last, let's be honest, it's going to be his last major contract. But I also don't blame Bayern for maybe withdrawing their offer if he is going to be indecisive, because eventually he does have to make a decision. And really, like I said, they essentially rolled out the red carpet for him. I don't know what else Bayern Munich could do. I mean, no player is above the club. That's one thing that's for sure with Bayern.
Yeah, who knows? It'll definitely be interesting.
Yeah, so we'll see how that, wraps up in the coming days. I think Kimmich is obviously so important on the pitch. He dictates the pace of the match, like we've been saying this whole year, but even more importantly, he's that kind of bridge locker room guy, I think, to bridge the generation of Neuer and Muller into this new generation of Fonzie, Musiala, Upamecano, maybe Zane if Upa and Zane extend. So I think he's so important for that reason. I think you just need players like that as a club. But that being said, I mean, this extension of Musiala, this extension of Alphonso Davies, Upamecano, it sounds like Bayern is building a core of players to ensure success for the future. So I don't know what else you want if you're Kimmich, because that was one of the things that he always demanded was he needs to be sure that Bayern's going to be successful in the future. And that's to me exactly what these extensions are signaling. So what else could he want?
Yeah, if it's just money in that case, then that's his prerogative, I suppose.
Yeah, well, I mean that about wraps it up for me. I don't have anything else to say except I'm just so fired up about this Champions League match coming up. And of course the Chelsea Conference League match coming up this week as well. So, stay tuned. Of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel because we're gonna have coverage of that, Twitter, everywhere, TikTok, it's gonna be big.
Gonna be a really exciting week, and hopefully both teams can deliver wins.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm good to leave it off there with a Mia San Mia.
Up the Chelsea.